Have you ever heard a whisper when no one was there? A voice so faint, so chilling, that it sends shivers down your spine? Some say the dead don't speak, but what if they do? What if a voice from beyond the grave calls out, begging to be heard? Daniel never believed in ghosts. That was until the night he heard the whisper. A voice, soft, yet desperate, calling his name in the darkness. It led him and his best friend Lisa on a terrifying journey, one that uncovered an unsolved mystery, a buried secret, and a ghost that refused to be forgotten. But some secrets should stay buried, because when the past speaks, the living must listen, or suffer the consequences. Sit back and watch, and subscribe, and also let me know which country you're watching from in the comment section. Let's go. The night was quiet, too quiet. Daniel lay in bed staring at the ceiling. The moonlight slipped through the curtains, painting silver shapes on his bedroom wall. He had always liked the night. It was peaceful, soft, like a blanket over the world. But tonight, something felt different. A strange feeling crawled up his spine like cold fingers brushing against his skin. He pulled the blanket up to his chin. Why did it feel like someone was watching him? Then, he heard it. A whisper. Faint, like a breath of wind. But it was there. Daniel. His heart slammed against his ribs. He sat up quickly, eyes wide. Had he imagined it? Maybe the wind outside was playing tricks on him. Then it came again, a little louder this time. Daniel. Daniel swallowed hard. His hands gripped the blanket tightly. Who was calling him? His parents were asleep. His little sister, Emily, was in her room. It didn't sound like them. It didn't sound like anyone he knew. His eyes darted to the window. Nothing. To the door. It was still closed. To the closet. The door stood slightly open, just a crack. Daniel's breath hitched. He had closed that door before going to bed. He was sure of it. The whisper came again, but this time it was different. It was closer. I'm still here. Daniel jumped out of bed. His feet hit the cold floor as he ran to the door and yanked it open. He dashed down the hallway, his heart pounding like a drum. His parents' bedroom door was shut. He hesitated. Should he wake them? No. They wouldn't believe him. They would say it was just a bad dream. Instead, he ran to his sister's room and pushed the door open. Emily was fast asleep, her stuffed bunny tucked under her arm. The soft glow of her nightlight filled the room. Daniel let out a shaky breath. Maybe he was just imagining things. Still, sleep didn't come easy that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he felt it. A presence lingering in the dark umber. The next morning, Daniel sat at the breakfast table, barely touching his cereal. His mom frowned. Not hungry? She asked. Daniel shook his head. You okay? His dad added, flipping through the newspaper. Daniel hesitated. Should he tell them? Would they even listen? He stirred his spoon in the bowl, watching the milk swirl. Just didn't sleep well, he muttered. His mom ruffled his hair. Bad dreams? Daniel just nodded. It wasn't a dream. After breakfast, he met up with his best friend, Lisa. She was waiting for him outside, her backpack slung over one shoulder. Lisa was the kind of girl who never got scared. She loved creepy stories and always wanted to explore haunted places. She noticed his tired eyes right away. You look like a zombie. What happened? Daniel hesitated, then whispered, I think someone spoke to me last night. Lisa raised an eyebrow. Who? I don't know, Daniel admitted. It was just a voice, in my room. It whispered my name. Lisa's eyes sparkled with curiosity. What did it sound like? Daniel shivered. Soft, like the wind. But it knew my name, Lisa. And when I looked around, nothing was there. Lisa grinned. That's awesome. Daniel frowned. It's not awesome, it was terrifying. Think about it, Lisa said, nudging him. Maybe it's a ghost trying to tell you something. Daniel gulped. He hadn't thought of that. He didn't want to think of that. But ghosts aren't real, he said quickly. Lisa smirked. Oh yeah? Then how do you explain the whisper? Daniel opened his mouth, then closed it. He had no explanation. Tell you what, Lisa said. I'll sleep over at your place tonight. If it happens again, we'll hear it together. Daniel wasn't sure if that made him feel better or worse. That night, Lisa brought her sleeping bag and set it up on the floor next to his bed. All right, she said, turning off the light. Let's catch a ghost. Daniel wasn't so sure he wanted to. The room was silent. The clock on the wall ticked softly. Lisa had fallen asleep, her breathing steady. But Daniel lay awake, staring at the ceiling again. Then, just as the night before, the whisper came. Daniel. He gasped. His heart leaped into his throat. He turned to Lisa, shaking her arm. Lisa, Wake up, Lisa groaned. Huh? What? The whisper came again. This time, it wasn't just Daniel who heard it. Lisa's eyes flew open. Did you hear that? She whispered. Daniel nodded. He was too scared to speak. Then something moved, a faint shadow, just beyond the closet door. And the whisper returned. Help me. Lisa grabbed Daniel's arm. Daniel, she breathed, I think you're right. Something is in this room. Lisa and Daniel sat frozen in the dark, their breath shallow. The whisper had stopped, but the room felt heavy, as if something unseen lingered in the air. Lisa swallowed hard. Okay. That was creepy. Daniel nodded. His hands were cold, his fingers clenched around the blanket. What do we do? He whispered. Lisa glanced at the closet. The door was still slightly open, the darkness inside stretching like an endless tunnel. There's something in there, she said. Daniel shook his head quickly. No way, I'm not opening it. Lisa took a deep breath. Okay, fine. Let's turn on the lights first. Daniel reached for the bedside lamp, his fingers trembling. He flipped the switch. The room lit up. Nothing. The closet was empty. The shadows were just shadows. Lisa frowned. We both heard it, right? Daniel nodded. It even said, help me. Lisa sat cross-legged on the floor. Then it's trying to tell us something. Daniel shivered. I don't want to know what. But Lisa was already thinking, what if it's a ghost? What if it needs us to do something? Daniel gulped. He didn't believe in ghosts, at least not before last night. But who is it? And why my room? Lisa tapped her chin. Maybe it has something to do with this house. Daniel frowned. We've lived here for years. Nothing weird ever happened before. Lisa's eyes brightened. Then maybe it's not the house. Maybe it's you. Daniel's stomach flipped. Me? Lisa nodded. It's calling your name. It knows who you are, Thermometer. What if it's someone who knew you before? Daniel thought hard. He didn't know anyone who had. His chest tightened. There was one person. A long time ago, when Daniel was little, there had been a boy next door. A boy named Tommy. They used to play together in the backyard, climbing trees and building forts. But then one day, Tommy was gone. Daniel had asked his parents where he went, but they never gave him a straight answer. They moved away, they had said. But Daniel had always thought something was strange. Tommy, he whispered. Lisa's eyes widened. Who's Tommy? A boy who used to live next door, but I never knew where he went. Lisa leaned forward. What if he didn't move? What if something happened to him? Daniel's skin prickled. He didn't want to think about that. But deep down, something told him Lisa was right. They had to find out the truth. The next day after school, Daniel and Lisa stood in front of the old house next door. It had been empty for years. The paint on the walls was peeling, and the windows were dark and dusty. Lisa pressed her hands against the front door. Locked, she muttered. Daniel glanced around nervously. Maybe this is a bad idea. Lisa grinned. Or maybe it's the best idea ever. Daniel sighed. There was no stopping her. They walked around the house, searching for another way in. The backyard was overgrown, weeds twisting through the cracks in the pavement. Then Lisa pointed. Look, the back window is open a little. Daniel's stomach churned. We're not breaking in. Lisa rolled her eyes. We're investigating. Before he could argue, she pulled herself up and slid the window open further. Then, with a small jump, she disappeared inside. Daniel groaned. Why do I let you talk me into these things? He followed her in. Inside, the house smelled of dust and something old, something forgotten. The air was thick and the wooden floor creaked under their feet. Daniel's heart pounded. It was too quiet. Lisa pointed to a hallway. Let's check the rooms. The first room was empty, so was the second. But in the third room, something was different. There was an old mattress on the floor, a small, broken chair, and on the wall, Daniel's breath caught. A name was scratched into the wood, over and over again, as if someone had been desperate for someone to see it. Tommy. Lisa ran her fingers over the letters. Daniel, she whispered. Daniel stepped back, his skin crawling. Then, bang! The closet door in the room swung open on its own. Lisa screamed. Daniel grabbed her arm. Run! They bolted down the hallway, their feet pounding against the floor. They leaped through the window, tumbling onto the grass outside. They didn't stop running until they reached Daniel's house. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He kept seeing the scratches on the wall, Tommy's name, over and over again. And then, just as he began to drift off, the whisper returned, but this time it was louder. You found me. Daniel's eyes flew open, and then the closet door creaked open. Section 3. The hidden truth. Daniel couldn't breathe. His closet door was opening, slowly inch by inch, revealing nothing but darkness inside. His heart pounded in his ears. Then, a soft thump. Something fell out of the closet. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. It was a book, a small dusty book with a torn cover. A diary. Lisa sat up from the sleeping bag on the floor. "What happened?" she asked groggily. Then she saw the open closet. "Oh no, 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 no. Tell me that door didn't just open on its own." Daniel pointed at the book. "That just fell out." Lisa hesitated, then grabbed the book. She wiped off the dust and squinted at the cover. Tommy. Daniel's skin prickled. Lisa opened the diary. The first few pages were filled with scribbles, childish handwriting, messy and uneven. She read aloud. "My name is Tommy. I don't think anyone can hear me anymore. I don't think anyone is looking for me." Daniel's stomach twisted. Lisa flipped to another page. The writing looked shaky, as if the person writing had been scared. "Something bad happened. I didn't mean to find it, but now he's mad. He told me I can't tell. Ever. He locked me in the closet. I keep screaming, but nobody comes." Daniel's hands turned ice cold. He looked up at the closet, dread filling his chest. Lisa whispered, "Daniel, I think Tommy didn't move away. I think something happened to him." Daniel gulped. "What do you mean?" Lisa's voice was barely audible. "I think someone hurt him." Daniel wanted to argue. He wanted to say Lisa was wrong, but deep down he knew she wasn't. A whisper shivered through the air. "Find me." Lisa and Daniel jumped. Daniel's throat was dry. What if Tommy's still here?" Lisa gripped the diary tightly. "Then we have to find out what happened to him." The next day, Daniel and Lisa sat in the school library, flipping through old newspapers. Lisa scanned the pages. "We need to find something about Tommy's disappearance." Daniel bit his lip. "What if there's nothing? What if nobody noticed?" Lisa's expression darkened. "Then that's even worse." For almost an hour they searched. Nothing. Then, Lisa gasped, "Daniel, look at this." She turned the newspaper toward him. The headline read, "Local boy missing. Family moves away suddenly." Daniel's chest tightened. The article was about Tommy. He read it carefully. Tommy Wells, age 8, was reported missing. His parents moved away soon after, leaving no clues behind. Authorities searched, but no evidence was found. The case remains unsolved. Lisa clenched her fists. "He didn't run away, Daniel. Someone took him, and I bet it happened in that house." Daniel's voice shook. "Then who did it?" Lisa frowned. "The diary said someone got mad when Tommy found something. What if he saw something he wasn't supposed to?" Daniel's hands felt sweaty. The thought made his stomach churn. Lisa suddenly snapped her fingers. The house next door, who owned it before it was abandoned? Daniel thought hard. Then, like a punch to the gut, he remembered. "Mr. Grayson," he whispered. Lisa froze. "Who's that?" Daniel's voice was barely a breath. "He was our neighbor. He lived alone. I remember my mom saying he worked at a butcher shop." Lisa's face paled. "A butcher?" Daniel nodded. "Then one day he just left. Nobody saw him again." Lisa gripped the newspaper. "Daniel, what if Tommy saw something bad? What if Mr. Grayson?" She couldn't even finish the sentence. Daniel felt sick. "We have to go back to that house." Lisa hesitated. "Are you sure? What if we find something we don't want to see?" Daniel's hands curled into fists. "Tommy wants us to find him. We can't stop now." Lisa nodded. "Then we go tonight." That night, Daniel and Lisa climbed through the window of the old house once more. Everything was the same. Dusty, silent, watching. Daniel's heart pounded as he led Lisa back to the room where they had found Tommy's name scratched on the wall. Lisa whispered, "What are we looking for?" Daniel took a deep breath. Something hidden. They searched. Under the mattress, behind the broken chair, in the closet. Nothing. Then Daniel's foot hit something. A loose floorboard. Lisa's eyes widened. "Daniel." She knelt down and pried at the board. With a groan, it lifted up. Inside was a small wooden box. Daniel's fingers shook as he opened it. Inside were torn pages from Tommy's diary, a rusted key, and Daniel's stomach lurched. A bloody shoelace. Lisa covered her mouth. "Oh my God." Daniel's hands trembled. Then, the whisper came again. "You found me." The air turned ice cold. A sudden loud bang echoed through the house. Footsteps. Daniel and Lisa froze. Someone was in the house, and they were coming toward them. Section 4. Face to face with the unknown. The footsteps were slow, deliberate, coming closer. Lisa grabbed Daniel's arm, her fingers digging into his skin. Neither of them moved. Crick! A floorboard groaned just outside the room. Daniel's breath hitched. Who was it? The house had been abandoned for years. No one was supposed to be here. Lisa whispered, "We have to hide." Daniel's eyes darted around the room. The closet. It was the only option. The same closet where Tommy had been locked away. His stomach twisted, but there was no time to think. Lisa pulled him inside just as the footsteps entered the room. Through the slats in the closet door, Daniel saw a shadow. Tall, still, watching. The person stood there for what felt like forever. Then, thump, they dropped something on the floor. Daniel flinched, then the footsteps started again, this time moving away. Lisa gripped Daniel's wrist. "Wait," she mouthed. They stayed still, counting the seconds. 5, 10, 15, silence. Lisa cracked the closet door open and peeked out. "Gone?" she whispered. Daniel swallowed hard. "Who was that?" Lisa stepped forward cautiously, then gasped. On the floor was a knife, and next to it, a note, scrawled in red ink. "Leave, or you're next." Daniel's blood ran cold. Lisa stared at the note, her face pale. "Daniel, someone knows we're here." Daniel's hands trembled. "What if it's him?" Lisa didn't answer. She didn't have to. They both knew who he was. Mr. Grayson. Back in Daniel's room, they sat in silence, their minds racing. Lisa turned the rusted key over in her fingers. This must open something. But what? Daniel thought about it. Then it hit him. The basement. Lisa's eyes widened. There was a basement? Daniel nodded. I remember. Tommy and I weren't allowed down there. Lisa grinned, her excitement returning. Then that's where we go next. Daniel hesitated. Something deep inside him screamed that this was a bad idea, that they were getting too close to the truth. But then the whisper returned. Please, don't leave me. Daniel's heart clenched. Tommy was still trapped, still waiting. He looked at Lisa and nodded. We go to the basement. The next night, they returned to the house. The air was heavier this time. The walls seemed darker. The house was no longer just abandoned, it felt alive, and it was watching them. They found the basement door at the end of the hallway. A thick padlock hung from it, rusted but still strong. Lisa pulled out the key. She hesitated. Last chance to back out. Daniel's jaw tightened. No, we have to do this. Lisa exhaled, then shoved the key into the lock. Section 5, Justice from the Grave. Daniel's heart pounded so hard he thought it might burst. Mr. Grayson stood at the top of the stairs, his face shadowed in the dim light. His bony fingers gripped the railing as he took a slow step forward. You kids shouldn't be here, he said, his voice cold and sharp. Lisa squeezed Daniel's arm. What do we do? She whispered. Daniel's mind raced. They were trapped. The only way out was past him. Lisa tried to sound brave. We know what you did. Mr. Grayson tilted his head. Oh, and what exactly do you think you know? Lisa pointed at the loose dirt in the basement. Tommy, you buried him down here, didn't you? Mr. Grayson was silent for a moment. Then, he laughed. Low, raspy, bone-chilling. You think you're smart, don't you? He muttered. You don't know anything. Daniel's hands curled into fists. Thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe for more terrifying stories.